Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. I know it takes like a couple minutes for people to get like caught up to speed or whatever, but we got a juicy topic today. I'm drinking, this is nothing but cucumber Gatorade, zero. It is about 90 degrees in California, and I'm having trouble. So I actually don't have the AC on because if I have the AC on, then you guys can hear it in this room. So I said we can't do it. So I'm gonna suffer with you guys and try and make this live relatively short. I should have done like a teaching. I should have brought out my whiteboard because there's so much to talk about with this topic. I'm talking about Christians and purity culture, and the reason why this came up is because I was dating, and people were like, "Well, how are you going on dates with these people and like traveling and not have sleeping with them?" And I was just it was an interesting question, and I was like, okay, well, let me just make a YouTube video about what I think about this because I think the way that we talk about sex in church is problematic. It's problematic. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna wait like a minute or so, and then I'm going to get started with like the way that I was taught and like how it was talked about to me in like schools and church and even with like parents and family versus what I know now and how that's changed. And I don't even think about it in the way that I think a lot of people do now because I've just been, I just have a different thought process. So you want to talk about it? It's Sunday. Church was great today. It was in we talked about or we he preached from James today. And I'll count it all joy, y'all. Count it all joy. Everything that happened, which was so fitting because yesterday was a nut job. I'm actually gonna do. I think I'm gonna do a story time on TikTok about um my yesterday that needed to be counted all joy. But okay, so let's talk about it. Purity culture. Before I start, I want to say that if you're someone who doesn't believe in purity before marriage, you can stick around. This is probably not going to be your jam. But of course, I just want to leave that disclaimer. I also want to say that I don't think that just because you don't sleep with someone before you get married or you don't have sex with someone before you get married, that it automatically makes your marriage better or it makes that person change, if that makes sense. I think sometimes the way that it's presented is that, oh, if you just don't sleep with them, then they'll be faithful or they'll be more loving, and I actually don't believe that. I really don't. Does it change things? Yes. And I'll tell you guys why. So raise your hand. That's how I used to start my classes when we talk about a topic. I would go, raise your hand if sex was taught to you in church or in school as like the big bad wolf that gave you diseases and pregnancy, and you would be forever damned to hell if you had sex before marriage. You guys can if you're watching the replay, you guys can just follow along in the comments. Raise your hand if sex was taught to you as you're gonna be damned to hell, you're gonna get diseases and die, and you are just the worst person on the planet. If that was taught to you in church or in school. Okay, so that was kind of my experience. The funny thing is that it was all fear, gloom, and doom for a lot of the talk around sex. And then when you get to school, the way that they teach sex in school is like, you deserve to have it. It's a human nature, and you need to acquiesce to this human desire. And if you want to shut it down, there's something wrong with you. And so it was almost like two opposite sides of the spectrum. And what I think is interesting is this. You guys be like, she's not saved. There's a lot of things in the Bible that are sin that we talk about, right? So like pride. Pride is a sin. Don't stop y'all from being prideful. Gluttony is a sin. Don't stop y'all from being gluttonous, right? So what makes you think that you saying, oh, having sex before marriage is a sin is going to stop somebody from doing that? Of course, like in an ideal world, because it's the word of God, you should have a conviction about it. Okay. Like there should be some level of conviction. But to pretend like sex is on some different level than gluttony, pride, um, any of the seven, even of the seven deadly sins, right? Lust, those, like, to act like those things are all not selfishness, are not um all things that God commands us not to do, and that people still don't do them, would be foolish. And so that was the first thing that I thought about. I was like, oh, wait a minute. There, we're acting like having sex before marriage is this special thing that doesn't require any knowledge other than don't do it because God said so. And to be honest with you, it doesn't work for most people. That doesn't work for most people. And I think I think the reason is because having sex before marriage, just like being selfish, being greedy, being gluttonous, being, prideful, being hateful, being spiteful, all those sins, like being a command from God didn't stop people from doing that. So, and even more so because our culture, I think it's countercultural to be pure before marriage. So it's even harder to take that as just a command from God. I'm just being honest. These are things that no one else wants to say. So I'm just going to say them. She don't have the Holy Spirit. Whatever. I don't care. When your kids are coming to me, then we can talk about it, right? Because they're like, my parents won't tell me the truth. So anyway, the way that sex is taught in church is it's a sin, don't do it, and that's it. Wait until you're married. And that should be good enough, right? It should be. Can we come back down to reality and live that it's not? Okay, it's not good enough. And people are no longer I would venture to say that the countercultural message is so strong that being like, oh, it's a sin is not strong enough for people, because people are seeing that, oh, well, people are prideful, they're selfish, they're this, and they're not getting struck down by lightning and not dying and going, and from these things. So, and for me, it was like, I didn't want to get pregnant and I didn't want diseases, right? And that was good enough for me. But for a lot of people, it's not, because in schools they're telling you, oh, you can prevent pregnancy by wearing a condom. You can prevent pregnancy by prevent disease by wearing, using contraceptives. So there's a lot of messaging that kind of, especially if your children are in schools where that's the message, it's not going to be enough. So let me take a sip. It wasn't until I was about 27 and I learned about how other cultures, traditional cultures, talk about sex versus how the United States and Christians talk about purity, until I was like, oh, God is so smart and wise. And it would do us well as Christians to share this with teens and adolescents. And what I think is fascinating is how other cultures talk about sex to men and how other cultures talk about sex to women, and how it's presented to both of them as sacred. What I find is in the church, a lot of times it's on the women to uphold purity. And and listen, we have a lot of power, responsibility. We do. Like, I'm not going to sit up here and be like, pretend like we don't. We do. We have a lot of say in what happens. Now, of course, if someone's being forceful, the R word, all that other stuff, that's different. But we have a lot of say in what happens, and we have to acknowledge that. So that's true. But it's not presented as something that men should value also. And I think a lot of it is because we don't know why. We don't know why men should value purity also. I don't think we have a context or a framework or a curriculum for Christians as to why. And other cultures have it. And they can be unbelievers and be right. And a lot of these cultures are not Christian cultures. Now, so for example, if you think of like Eastern Asian countries, you think about some traditional Asian cultures, you think about some traditional African cultures, the way that sex is taught to men and women and talked about to men and women encourages everybody to preserve their purity before marriage. So I want to talk about what I've learned and how this has changed the way when I was teaching health and we would have these conversations with girls and even the like I some of my people that I work with are young women and I can have honest conversations with them because they're adults, they're young adults and we talk about these things. So I'm going to explain to you what I learned. So what and that was never ever told to me as an adult. Like it took me I was 27 years old when I learned this, okay? The first thing is that other cultures, when they talk about sex, they talk about sex before marriage, it's not as this uncontrollable urge that must be quenched immediately. Okay. That's the way that we talk about sex in the United States. And that's the way that we talk about sex in churches. We talk about it as this uncontrollable urge that must be suppressed. And it's almost like talking about the red elephant in the room. And so people are like, don't think about the red elephant, don't think about the red elephant. And now they're thinking about the red elephant. So that's how it's taught. And that's how it was taught to us. It was like, don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex. Having boys mean sex. Like it was just like this thing. And I'm like, wait a minute, why is this such a big deal? In other cultures, I've learned that it's taught as a natural desire that is created for marriage. It is a natural desire that is created for marriage. And then they're taught, like some men are taught, okay, you're going to have these urges, and here's how you deal with these urges without going around and slipping and falling in everything that you see, every, woman. Yes, other cultures are taught that. The men are taught this is not for you to have outside of marriage. So here's how you deal with those urges. Here's how you deal with that energy that's flowing through your body. Here's how you manage that and put that in somewhere else. Put that towards entrepreneurship. Put that towards working out. Put that towards your job. Like use that energy, all that feeling towards something else. No one tells boys that. I can tell you guys, I was a teacher for 12 years. No one tells boys that. It's all about go watch porn, get it out, do what you need to do. And what you do when you tell boys that is you actually help them look at women and girls as objects. When you don't equally train men that that's an urge that needs to be redirected, you train them. So even if you're over here preaching to girls to be pure, now they're doing everything in their power to make sure that girls want them and now that's when all the, I'm promising you the moon, the stars, the sun, and everything that is under it to sleep with you. But because we're not telling boys and men, hey, what you have, that urge is powerful stuff. It has the power to create life. It is powerful. It is good when it's used properly. When it's not, it damages women. Nobody's saying that. In other cultures, that's kind of how it's taught. You damage women when you do that. Because it's true. When you just run around dipping and diving and running and everything, but no one tells men that. And on the female side, it's just lock your legs up. And, no one's telling young women that, the week before you have your cycle, 5 to 7 days after your cycle, you are the most fertile. And so every single person that gives you attention, or a lot of boys usually in high school, I'm talking about, they give you attention, it's going to feel like they're just the most amazing person in the world because your body wants to create babies. No one is telling girls that. I used to tell them, lock yourself up in your room 5 to 7 days after your cycle. I would tell them that. Lock yourself in your room. Don't answer any phone calls. Because that's, they need to start understanding their bodies. The other thing that no one tells girls is that, and this is true, your body and your ability to give life is like millions and billions of dollars. And when you decide that someone gets a piece of that, that's like saying, I got $1 billion. You can have some, you can have some, you can have some. Imagine just allowing everyone to take your money whenever you feel like it. Imagine that. and of course, I'm not trying to reduce, the sacred, holy act of giving life and creating life to um, money, but it's very much like that. It's like, okay, there's a piece of you that you give away to someone. The way that your DNA, when you're in that sort of situation, your DNA changes to match that person. So if you're because it inserts itself in you. A lot of these girls don't know that. These are things that you have to tell women. You have to tell young women, but the church will not talk about it. So you can record this video and use it. It changes the way that you think. You start to take on those characteristics. The other key thing that I don't think that we're afraid to talk about in school because we don't want to be we don't want to be fired. No one tells girls. One of the reasons why God designed sex in general is this is scientific, is that when you have sex with someone, you get rose-colored glasses because they're supposed to be your husband, and because God knows that we're sinful and we're humans and we're gonna fight with each other. He's like, okay, I'm gonna give them this women particularly because he knows that we can be very critical and we can be very, we can start to nag on things. He said, I'm gonna give these women, when they have sex with a man, they're going to get these rose-colored glasses where they see this person in a better light, which is beautiful in a marriage because that means that I'm more likely to look at my husband with love and compassion and joy, even if he's getting on my everlasting nerve. But where this goes wrong, and I've seen, you guys, the stories I could tell you working in public schools and realizing that these girls are stuck on stupid with these boys because they're sleeping with them is this. What they don't tell girls is you end up sleeping with this person that you barely know. And now he's using and abusing you because you can't see what's wrong with him because you have the rose-colored glasses from the chemicals that are created when you sleep with a man. You are setting yourself up for heartbreak. You are setting yourself up for heartbreak. You become chemically bonded to this person as if you are married. So you chemically marry this person and then they can leave because males don't have the same attachment level with sex that girls do. So that act for them is not the same. But no one's going to tell you that in church. They're not going to say that in church. They'll just tell you to not sleep with these men and that, or not have sex. And then they'll just be like, you're fornicating and going to hell. Yeah. So we have to tell young women the truth, which is that when you decide to sleep with someone, you decide to have sex with someone, you are actually, number one, giving a piece of yourself to them. And they are also injecting a part of themselves to you, which means whatever characteristics they have, you start to take on those things. So be careful. And if they have weird fungi, bacteria, you will get some of that. You don't want that. You don't want it. And better yet, you don't want to be chemically married to a man who hasn't committed to you because he can walk away whenever he wants. So unless you can block off your stone cold heart, but the truth is that a lot of these girls they're out here really wanting to marry these dudes, wanting to be with these men. And so they're thinking, oh, if I sleep with him, it's going to make him like me more. And the truth is it actually damages. Healthy masculine men want to chase women. That's another thing they won't tell you about purity culture, about purity in the church. Healthy masculine men want to chase women. Are there marriages where people have slept together before marriage? God's redeemed that. It's fine. Yes. But in general, men want to chase women. So if you are not letting that man pursue you because you're like, here are my legs, here I am, you're setting yourself up for failure because a healthy man, even though he doesn't want to think of you that way, his DNA, the way that God designed him, his DNA will say, that is not the one because she was too easy. And if she was too easy with me, then she's probably too easy with other people. I know you guys are not going to like me when I say this, but this is the kind of stuff you should be telling your daughters, like for real, for real. I wish somebody had told me. I wish someone had told me this. It took me till I was 27. Okay, I wish someone had said this to me. So I think, I don't know if I was finished with that, but whatever. I love purity before marriage. I think that getting to know someone and truly seeing them for who they are, and then being able to make a sound decision because you're like, okay, I'm seeing this person and I know who they are and I'm not clouded by the chemicals that come when I've had sex with them. I know exactly what I'm getting. And if I want to walk away, I can do that more easily than if I'm with someone who, you know, I I slept with, and now I have this attachment, this chemical attachment to them, and I can't walk away. And these are the kind of things that I think you have to start to talk to young women about. And the reason is that the culture is too strong. The other thing that is not talked about with purity culture is the relationship between fathers and daughters and how that has an impact on how they view men. If daughters grow up in homes where their fathers are not pursuing their hearts, and their fathers are maybe workaholics, their fathers don't tell them that they're beautiful, their daughters don't tell them that they have value, they're getting that message from somewhere. And it's usually the culture telling them, you will have value when another man or a boy likes you. And because the cultural message is so strong, that's what, girls tend to start becoming boy crazy. So it is really important. It's funny that the church wants to be like women, 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 but it's like, how much are these fathers being the first love of their daughters' lives in a healthy way? How much are these men actually creating a safe emotional place for their daughters? How much are these men actually treating their daughters well and with dignity and respect and love and kindness, so that they know what a healthy relationship is like, and it's not just based on sex? Because the truth is that when you know what being treated well feels like, it's better than sex. So you don't want that. It's like not the thing. So people are asking me like, "Oh, well, how are you doing that?" It's because you couldn't pay me at this stage in my life to sleep with somebody before I'm married. Why would I give away $1 million to someone? Listen, I'm sending you my money because I'm an entrepreneur. Why would I even make $1 million to someone? Why would I chemically bond myself to somebody who is not willing? Like, you want to share all these bacteria, diseases, whatever. You want to share all of your, not even disease, just like bacteria, like your gut microbiome with me. But you don't want to marry me? Like, that's weird. No, thank you. Right? That's weird. So no, I'm not willing to do that. I have no desire to become chemically married to someone without a real marriage. So that's how. It's not even like a thought in my mind at this point in my life, because I'm like, and I'm not going to damage my chances with anybody else, with anybody, by being like, here, let me give you this precious gift of mine so that you can what? Be like, oh, I got it. So now, because the truth is, they won't tell you this either. People will deny this till the cows come home, but we know men. Men, once they get it, they usually are good. They're like, okay, they might play with it for a while, then they're good. They're good. And healthy masculine men are not even gonna, they don't even want it. So I can actually tell who's a healthy masculine man by who is okay with still pursuing me and getting to know me and genuinely demonstrating good character qualities, demonstrating character qualities, demonstrating honesty, loyalty, commitment without that. That's the kind of man that I want. Is he going to hate it? Absolutely. It's their natural urge. He's going to dislike it. He's going to. But for me, I'm not going to throw that away. And if you want to talk to boys about this, you need to tell them the truth, which is that they damage women when they go around bloop, 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 just dipping and diving and everything. and they need to value women. And that's what other cultures are doing for men is they're teaching them how to value women. And they're so the men and the women are getting the same messaging. And sometimes in Christian churches, the men are not. Okay. So I'm done here. I think it's cool enough now to walk the dog. So I'm gonna go walk him, and then I've got some stuff to do. And I've got I'm going on a potluck. We're going to potluck on 4th of July. I've got photos to take on 4th of July. And oh my gosh, you guys, this weekend has been crazy. I gotta do a story time. But anyway, it was so nice chatting with you guys again, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.